The pain that little Hazel's parents felt that terrible morning was indescribable because their little girl had just breathed her last breath, but not before grabbing their hands tightly and making them promise not to cry for her. That promise was impossible to keep because although they tried to be very strong, the little girl knew that her parents would not be able to overcome her terrible departure. Sometime later, they discovered something that would leave them completely devastated. When Julio and Marta found out their little girl was sick, they thought it was something temporary, because she had always been a very strong and healthy child. They had never had a complication with her, never before nor after the birth. She had been a blessing that God had sent into their lives in one of the most difficult moments for them. They were dealing with the loss of their parents, who died in a terrible accident on the way to visit them. So the months after that terrible event were devastating. The couple turned away from God, but when they found out that their little girl was on the way, their lives changed completely. All the people closest to them noticed the change, generating an indescribable illusion in their lives. That little angel grew in front of their eyes of the happy couple who felt that their lives were complete because the joy that little Hazel brought to their house was incomparable. She was their lifeline in one of the most difficult times for the couple, giving them strength and hope in life. So when little Hazel began to feel ill, they tried not to be alarmed. Their little girl had always been very healthy and full of life, so unfortunately, they let the first warning that life gave them pass them by. As time went by, her situation worsened, and the parents became desperate, taking their little girl to the nearest hospital for help as she began to suffer from multiple, unbearable headaches and constant vomiting. The joy in her smile had disappeared, and she looked weaker and weaker. The doctors were in charge of doing all the pertinent tests to determine the illness that afflicted the little girl. But unfortunately, the news was not good at all, because the little girl had a large tumor in her head, which little by little was growing, compressing her head and leaving her in a vegetable state. That news tore the parents, who at no time stopped blaming themselves for not having come in time to seek help. They also blamed God for having abandoned them. The doctors explained to them that they were not to blame for anything because nothing could have been done before, since the tumor was in a very complicated place to be treated. Even so, they decided to do everything possible to try to save the little girl. This is why little Hazel had to start a very exhaustive treatment, despite the recommendations of the doctors, who did not fully agree. Hopes were very low. Even so, the parents insisted, desperate to extend the life of their little angel. Time passed, and the little girl tried to live her life normally. She loved to draw and write, so she constantly dedicated the time she was not in the hospital to do what she liked the most. Although many times her little body could not give more due to the strong medicines that had to be administered to her. Little by little, the little girl lost her strength and her abilities. Eventually, she could no longer even hold the colors she loved so much and played around the house as she used to. One day, the little girl couldn't take it anymore, and grabbing her parents by the hands, she asked them not to give her any more medicine because she didn't want to go to the hospital anymore. The little girl just wanted to be happy, painting and playing. "I don't want it to hurt anymore. I love them, but I just want to rest," little Hazel to the rather bewildered parents. That same day, the parents had to make the hardest decision of their lives, to stop extending their daughter's life and let her be happy for the rest of her days. From that moment on, Hazel showed improvement. She was happy, writing and painting, jumping and laughing. But as the weeks passed, the heartbreaking moment arrived. Little Hazel said goodbye to her parents, who could not hide their sadness. Hazel held their hand and thanked them for allowing her to be happy for those last few days. She also asked them not to cry for her and to be happy, but it was very difficult for those parents, who had to see how their little angel was leaving little by little without being able to do absolutely anything. The days following that terrible event was heartbreaking for the couple, as they were completely alone in the world. Life had taken a very big turn in a short time, and they felt guilty for the passing of their little girl. the mother fell into a deep depression, crying in every corner of the house. On the other hand, the father focused on work, leaving his wife all alone. It was not until one day when the mother decided to enter her little girl's room and discovered something completely shocking, because the little girl had left notes all over the room, with which she sought to comfort her parents after her departure. The little girl knew very well how much her death would affect them, so she decided to leave them many drawings and encouraging phrases so that they could continue living and be happy. Little Hazel wrote in each one of them her happiness for having had wonderful parents. But that was not all. She thanked God for having given them the opportunity to know one another, and also left them a very special drawing in which she asked them to please give to her little brother, who would accompany them for the rest of her lives, so that they would never be sad again. This was little Hazel's last wish, as it was the last drawing she made on her deathbed. All those notes surprised the couple because they realized that their daughter was stronger than them, and eventually they decided to listen to her. That was how Andres was born, a little boy who undoubtedly was to support those parents, who did not hesitate to tell them about his brave sister Hazel, who was now an angel for all of them and watched over them from heaven. They also taught him that God is great and that sometimes He puts you in very difficult situations. But the truth is that He never abandons you, because He will always have a purpose for your life. And Hazel's purpose had been to teach them to love and be happy. Losing a little one is very hard and difficult to overcome. We are clear about that, but many times these little angels are always passing through life to teach us to live it and love madly. They will always be present in our hearts, and they will take care of us for the rest of our lives, just as Hazel did with her family. Well, dear friends, this is the end of this powerful story. We hoped you liked it. If you liked it, give us a like and leave us your valuable comment so that we can all read it. If you have not yet subscribed to our channel, we invite you to do so and click on the notification bell so you will always be informed when we have new stories as shocking and impressive as the one you just heard. See you next time.